Professor Khalid has just joined us. He is the supervisor, Professor Khalid bin Abdurrahman.
Welcome.
Uh, So let me start with today's session formally. I have started recording. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Dear all SESME members and participants, Assalamu alaikum, happy Ramadan, and very warm welcome to this webinar arranged by Saudi Society for Medical Education, Riyadh Office Journal Club. I'm Dr. Shazia Iqbal, Chairperson and Organizer for Continued Professional Development Activities at Saudi Society for Medical Education, SESME. Our society is very much keen to enhance the teaching capabilities of medical faculty through continued improvement in quality of teaching and strategic integration of technology. We promote and advance innovation, leadership, and opportunities in medical education, and this is our third webinar by SESME to accomplish our goal. Teaching in faculty online environment can be daunting even for seasoned online instructors, especially when they have to prepare a new course. However, with few simple tactics and process of course delivery become very smooth and enjoyable experience for students. The purpose of today's Journal Club session is to focus that how faculty can improve and plan strategies that can be used to successfully build a high quality online course. The topic for today's presentation is designing a quality online course, and I am honored and delighted to present a distinguished speaker, Dr. Yaping Gao. Very warm welcome, Dr. Yaping Gao, to SESME Riyadh office. Dr. Yaping Gao is a Senior Academic Director of Member Services and Partnerships for Quality Matters. She oversees and leads member services and partnerships with focus on international outreach and initiatives. Dr. Yaping Gao has over 25-year experience in higher education, both in China and in USA as faculty, instructional designer, learning management system administrator, and online education administrator. Dr. Gao earned her doctoral degree in curriculum and instructional design and educational technology from Baylor University, Texas, USA. Her master's and bachelor degrees are from Shanghai International Studies University, China. Dr. Gao believes quality course and program design supported by research and facilities, effective instruction, promotes student engagement and active learning. She lays the foundation for student success and institutional advancement. So before we start with today's webinar, I would request Prof. Khalid to say some opening remarks. Dr. Khalid Abdurrahman is President of Saudi Society of Medical Education. Welcome, Prof. Khalid.
Thank you, Dr. Shazia. Again, we'd like to welcome Dr. Yaping for this webinar, and I'm sure it's going to be one of the wonderful experience for us from international well-known expert in the field, especially in the new era of COVID-19, where everybody depending now on technology, especially those engaged heavily in medical teaching and whether undergraduate or postgraduate. So I remember a couple of weeks ago when I presented a webinar about interactive lecturing for my faculty, and they keep asking me, is there any possibility to make the lectures, the online lectures, interactive, like as if you are in the class? I told them, if there is a will, there is a way. So if you have the intention to make the students enjoying your talk and enjoying your class, then you can do it, whether online or face to face. So it is our duty to make the education as enjoyable as possible. So welcome, Dr. Yaping again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Khalid. Welcome, Dr. Yaping, and you can start with your presentation. And for all participants, welcome again. And you can keep your question at the end. Last 15 minutes will be for your question and answering session. I shall keep eyes on questions in chat box. Either you can write in chat box, or by end of presentation, you can raise hand and Dr. Yaping can take questions. Thank you. Yes, over to you, Dr. Yaping.
Okay, so first of all, let me take this opportunity to say a big thank you to Dr. Almadi and Dr. Shazia, Dr. Bar, and Dr. Khalid, everybody for taking your family evening time, this late time to join me. So I really appreciate, this is one of the ways to show your commitment, to really to help our students, because the common denominator is our students, right? No matter how we do it, what we do it, where we are. And so I want to thank you. So let me share my screen, and I have a few slides to walk us, and you can add any questions, or you can just unmute yourself, ask me questions anytime you feel comfortable. Okay, so again, thanks for this opportunity. I'm as Dr. Shazia's introduction, I have been in very fortunate position this past year. I get to talk to probably over colleagues from over 40 countries, and the questions, the challenges that we all ask, we all face are really the same. We are in the core of teaching and learning, and we have been doing this for decades and hundreds of years, but now we are online. So learning objectives do not change. It's just the way we deliver, teach, change. So in my current position, I oversee member services, and my focus is on international communities like you, outside the States. Today, I have prepared a few things for me to share. One is I do want to introduce what is Quality Matter and what organizations like QM does. Earlier last year, as soon as the pandemic starts, I get to present, and the people are just so happy. That's like, oh, there are organizations like QM who have been doing this for years and years, and they were very, very happy. So I want to introduce that. And then I also want to offer and introduce a few really easy to adapt and use tools and resources QM offer to the community. There's no cost. It's everybody can have access. And then I want to focus on some of the issues or the questions that we've been hearing from the education community. And if you are a faculty, you're bound to ask for the past year, how do I do my assessments? How do I make sure my students are not cheating, right? How do I engage the students? How do I make my, as Dr. Khalid was saying, the faculty were asking, how do I make my courses more interactive? So all of this. And one of the good thing about QM is our tools and processes and resources are very adaptable. First of all, because I oversee all member services at the QM, I'm very proud to share that we are a US-based nonprofit organization, and we have member institutions. So in 28 countries right now, and over the total of member institution. Now, I want to emphasize institution. These are not individuals, they are institutions. So colleges, universities, organizations, companies. So we have over 1,500 member institutions all over the world. And the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is actually the third largest country that we have the most member after US and Canada. And QM has been in the kingdom since 2010. And here is a quick list to share that these are the member institutions, QM member institutions in the kingdom. So if any of you happen to be from any of these member institutions, I would love for you to say a hi, hello in chat, so I know, okay? So thank you for your support. Our longest member is King Khalid University. They joined QM in 2010, and I think followed by Princess Nora, and then Imam Abdulrahman bin Fazi University. So there are quite a few of them are fairly new from 2018, 2019, and 2020, certainly. So if any of you are here, hello, thank you. If anybody asks me to introduce what is QM in 2 minutes, so here's what I would say. Our foundation or our research supported standards and rubric, and I will say a few words over there, but just too quickly to show you for higher education, the standards is just 1 page, 8 general standards, 42 specific standards. That's the standards. Now, when we say rubric, it's a whole book. Okay, so this is the rubric because each standard needs examples, explanations, annotations, etc., etc. Okay, so based on our standards, we provide a lot of different professional development opportunities, workshops, courses that depend on the role that you have at your institution. It depends on your goal and what you want to do. Okay, and then for courses, for programs, we also have course and a program review and the certification, and I will talk to that about that in just a few minutes here. If there's one thing that I would love for you to take away to your own institution, to your own college, is that the QM rubric process resources are adaptable, and then we can help you to start from where you are and where you want to go based on your goal, and we can help you to ensure your quality of your online hybrid courses and the programs. So just a couple of quick resources that QM put together based on the best practice of the community last March. So that was 1 year ago when the pandemic happened, because in the past, the QM only need to support the online teaching and learning community, and that's a very small percentage, right? Maybe even in the US, Canada, that's probably only 5 to 10% of the education community. But then the pandemic happened, so everybody needs to do some sort of, you know, online education or remote instruction. So we offered a tool called emergency remote instruction, a checklist. This is just for to help face-to-face faculty instructions quickly pivot and transition from face-to-face to remote instruction. So the goal here, or the key points during this transition period, is really understanding what is changing. Learning objectives do not change, okay? But the way we teach, the structure of the courses, that changed. And then for students, of course, we need to be more accommodating, right? Either their schedule or either their home, you know, the family, etc., etc. And also the Wi-Fi, you know, the accessibility, you know, the laptop, the bandwidth, etc., etc. And of course, as I mentioned, the #1 question from faculty is always, how am I going to do my final exam? How am I going to ensure, you know, my assessments? Also, faculty, because they are used to, we teach the way we were taught, okay? And that the majority, 90% of our faculty all over the world had never taught online before the pandemic happened. So we need to learn new pedagogies of teaching in the new online environment. And one of the important things is find ways to establish the teaching presence, even if you're not Zooming, talking to your students like this every hour, every day, but you want to make sure the students feel that you are there to help them, to guide them. And for students, engagement, engagement, and engagement. So the key during that transition is faculty training, faculty training, faculty training, support for faculty, support for faculty. That's the key. So after a few months, probably like half a year, you know, into the summer, and then institutions, you know, had a few months experience, and then they started asking, how can I improve? You know, we are now in the summer, we want to have a little bit time to improve. So we again offered a great tool. It's really a basic course design guide. It's not up to the standard or the QM standards yet, but it's something in between. You know, they came from face-to-face and they have tried remote teaching for a few months, but now they are looking for quality. So we offered this guide just to map in between so that they can, you know, the goal is to for all the courses to meet QM standards eventually. So this is something in between. And here, now we are really talking about basic instructional design learning. So interaction, purposeful assessment, meaningful learning activities, they do not happen automatically, right? That's why the role of instructional designers is becoming increasingly important, because these are the professionals who may not necessarily teach every day, but they have the instruction design knowledge. So they are the ones who can connect faculty, traditional face-to-face faculty, with the online pedagogy, the technology, so that we can all utilize the best practice so far we already have, as well as the wonderful and getting better and better technology to help students learn. So in this guide, there is phase 1, 2, 3, and I have all of these links for you, and perhaps towards the end, if any of you want that, I can copy and paste the link into the chat for you. It'll be very easy. So this is my first part of my presentation. Do we want to take questions, or do you want me to just go ahead and continue?
I think right now, no questions, so you can continue.
Okay, great. Okay. So, so that's my basic introduction about QM and what is the QM role during this past year. So now let's put on the head of a faculty and dean, or the president, or your provost, who's really whose responsibility is really to ensure the quality of teaching and the learning. Okay, and as we know, you know, in the English language, there's a saying that it takes a village to raise a child, right? And we as educators, we certainly understand it takes the entire institution to help one student and every student succeed, right? So at the institutional level, of course, the top level officers are concerned about the enrollment, about the institutional accreditation. At the program level, the deans and the chairs, they are concerned about the learning outcome, the competencies of the students after they completed the each program, right? And the very majority of us here today are faculty. You are in the classroom, you are in the hospital, you are helping students learn. So your concern is how to achieve the learning objectives, learning outcomes for each and every one of your students. And if we put it in like another way, is really the foundation of any academic institutions are courses. So you all are the foundation, you all are the backbone of what academic institution is about, right? Academic institution, as much as research you do, your core is teaching and learning. Okay, so at your course level, you lay the foundation, you make sure your students achieve all the learning outcomes at course level. Then that will support the program level, because the program competencies, they all should be aligned with each and every one of your course. And then the ultimate goal is your institution's mission, vision, you know, what is your the institutional goal, short-term, medium-term, long-term. Okay. So today, because of time, we will focus on course level, because our title is how to build a quality online course, right? So QM offers 5 sets of standards, and we call them rubric, because it's not just this one sheet of paper, it's this entire rubric. And here we are going to share a bit about higher education. So the higher education rubric is composed of 8 components, or we call it the 8 general standards. And if you look at this, it's really make a lot of common sense, right? We are talking about course design. So that means you start with learning objectives. Then you think about, okay, how am I going to assess my students, right? And then you say, okay, then what kind of course content, what kind of textbook I use, what kind of online open education resources, what kind of lab, what kind of, you know, things that I use. And then you want to say, okay, how am I going to engage my students? What kind of hands-on labs and activities do I have for my students? And then you say, okay, now we're in online, I don't go to what kind of technology I use, right? And what kind of support and the resources my students need in order to achieve their learning outcomes. And in US, the accessibility issue is very big, is because it's mandated by the federal government, by the Department of Education. And then once the course is designed, then you think about it. Okay, my course is designed, but how am I going to introduce to my students? So the first one, course overview and introduction, is actually after the course has been designed in your LMS, and then you present to the students. So when the students logging in, they know right away, you know, you want to do a little short video introduction, how to get started, you know, week module, etc. You do an orientation or introduction to students. So all of this is from the perspective of students. Students do not really care who put this course together. They only know you are the professor, you are teaching it. You may need to do everything on yourself. And if you are lucky, you have support from your institution, from your college, you have instructional designers to help you. But if not, you are the ones who is, you know, own the online hybrid course. So one of the things that is very important to the QM standards is that everybody can come in and say, okay, here's our checklist, down, 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 down. But what is the research behind it? And we always ask why we're doing this, okay? So one of the things I want you to take away is this 42 standards is not anybody say, oh, this is good, we should use it. This is from the over, I would say, the experience of 2 decades of online education from the US-based, North American-based best practice. So there's pages and pages and dozens of literature review behind each and every one of those standards. So you do not have to worry about how, you know, valid those standards are. The research has been done. Your job is to do self-evaluation to see how they can help me, how they can help my students, how they can help my courses, okay? So one of the very important thing is when we, every year, every other or every 2 years, we will do an update. So this is our version number 6 actually. So we incorporate the new practice, the new pedagogy, new best practice, but the fundamental principle is called the principle of alignment. And that should be our focus for today if we are talking about course design, because everything in your course needs to serve a purpose. So if you look at the house structure here, this graphic, the learning objectives, or you call it learning outcome, it's the same thing, is the foundation, meaning that is your goal, that is what you want to achieve. And then you start from there, and as a faculty, you're always thinking about your assessment, whether it be self-assessment or midterm or final, however, it's assessment. How do you do that? So these should be squarely, very well aligned. And then everything else in between, the content, the tools you use, the activities, the homework, the assignment, whatever you require students to do is to achieve the goal of learning outcomes. So all of the standards can be used, adapted. It doesn't matter what kind of technology you use, what kind of LMS you use, what kind of courses you teach. So you all teach health sciences, but it can be English composition, math, algebra, engineering, you know, any course. So it's really LMS and the tools agnostic. It's student-centered. It's squarely on learning. Okay, so and it's research supported, interrelated. So here you probably cannot see very well, but I can show you. Oops, sorry. Here's the standards. There's a PDF file here. I can quickly share this URL in the chat if you like. If I can get my mouse to work where it needs to be. Okay, here, right? Is it? Oh, here. There we go. Okay, so anybody can take a look. You can download a copy, you know, for your self-evaluation, internal conversation, etc., etc. Okay, so I will not read everything. You can look at yourself, but I do want to share one of the pages, not from the standards, but from the annotation. For example, on standards 2.1, it says the course level outcomes or learning objectives needs to be measurable. So what does that mean? And how do you make learning objectives measurable? And then when you want to, do a course review or self-review, how are you going to judge or saying, okay, these learning outcomes are measurable? So we will go into that in just a second. So let's come back to the alignment that we were sharing earlier. What do you mean by alignment, and then what's the purpose of alignment? So when we talk about alignment, first of all, as we said, alignment between objectives and the assessment, that is the biggest component or the biggest thing that faculty concern, right? The goal, the target, and how do you assess? So the alignment between objectives and assessment, that is number one. Number two, alignment between course components, meaning you use what material, what activities, what assessment, and what kind of tools, technology you use that for a purpose. So purpose, you have to align all the components. And then you want to use alignment to engage students. And you want to help students to gain access and provide students access the right resource, the right support at the right time. So all of this are alignment. So that's why this little graphic here shows you. The first one is you use measurable verbs, the taxonomy, to make sure your outcomes are measurable, and then you build your assessment for those outcomes. And then you want to align all the other components to serve the purpose of achieve learning outcomes. And then the third one is to everything in the course serves the students. It's learner-centered, it's learning-centered. Okay, so talking about assessments, okay, measurable. And I'm sure that many of you know this very, very well. So in the field of education, when we talk about assessment, you know, a Bloom's taxonomy coming to my mind. And this has been used for decades and decades, and is still the golden standards to go to. So when in every course, either you're teaching a basic one-on-one introduction course, or you're teaching a more higher level course, you always want to have some thing to build the foundation, and you go up. Right? So you always start with some concepts, definition, things that you want students to master, to trying to define, memorize, recall, and then you want them to understand a certain concept, but you cannot stop at the understanding. You have to, especially in your field, right? You are in health science. Everything you learn need to be applied, right? To the hospital, to the labs, etc. So you want students to use the knowledge they have just gained to apply. And then at the highest level, you want students to be able to evaluate, you know, case studies, and then you want to, hopefully they can create something, right? A portfolio, a project, you know, things like that. So this is the taxonomy that the majority of the instructional designers all over the world follow when they assist faculty to build online courses. So here's a little stair here. At the lower level, that's the low cognitive skills, moving up to high cognitive skills, all right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And typically, we would stop right in the middle, saying that, you know, remember, understand, apply. These are relatively low skill, but the higher you go is the higher cognitive. And then on top of the stairs are some common and action verbs that you can use for your to ensure that your learning objectives are measurable. So you cannot say, you know, after this course or after this module unit, my students will understand 1, 2, 3, 4. How are you going to measure their understanding? You need to specifically say, you know, you want them to define, you want them to explain, or you want them to organize, or you want them to solve some problems. And then on the top here is some kind of activities. It's some sample activities you can actually use to help create your learning learning activities, homework, project, teamwork, etc. Okay, so I will not go into detail. This is just for your reference. I will be happy to share all of these. So let me go. That previous page is showing the use the measurable verbs to build, design your learning activities. Now we're talking about assessments here. So this is by a professor who is also an instructional designer at the University of Central Arkansas, he shared that if you look at the pyramid here, it's the same thing. It's the cognitive skills. It's from low level, from remembering, understanding to evaluating and creating. So that's the same thing. But what he did was he put two columns, one on the left, one on the right, is the formative assessment and then summative assessment. So in the online environment, this is the biggest paradigm shift for our traditional face-to-face faculty, instructors, teachers. Traditionally, faculty meet with students every day, every other day, give lecture, give homework, and then we wait until the midterm. And then we wait until the final exam. And the final exam is typically proctored exam, right? But in the online environment, because we're not getting feedback from students every day, how they're doing, right? So we really have to rethinking assessments. Midterm, final, you can still do them if you really, really want to do. But even if you do final, even if you do midterm examination, the percentage of those two assessments should not be high stake, meaning they should not be, half of the final grade is on the final exam, and then the midterm has 30% of the final grade, and only 20% or even less is on their daily activity, their homework, assignment, etc. No, that is not going to work. It's too much stress, both on you as a faculty and on students. For you, if you wait until the midterm and final, you do not get the feedback on how students are doing if they are learning everything that you want them to learn on the daily basis, on the weekly basis. And for students, if there's no assessment all the time, small quiz all the time, they can tend to get lazier. They're not motivated. So they wait until the midterm, until the final exam, and they, so like, okay, so, and then they panic, and then they trying to find a way to cheat. Okay, so it's no good for either the faculty or for students. The ideal way is you still can have a midterm test, a midterm exam, maybe 10%. And then if you really want, you can still have final, maybe only 10% or 15%, no more than 20% of your final grade is on the final exam. And I'll tell you why. If your question is, how am I going to make sure my students don't cheat? They have their iPhone, they have iPad, they have everything that they can Google, If you're asking this question to yourself, to your colleagues, then you are not asking the other half question, which is more important. And that half question is, how are we ensuring our students are all learning something every day, every week? So that in the whole term, by the last 2 weeks, the students have achieved 80 or even 90% of what they're supposed to be achieving. So that by the last week, even if you want to give a final exam, there should not be anything shocking. There should not be something unexpected, because you have been assessing them every single week, if not every other day. So formative assessment and the daily activities are very, very crucially important in the online environment. You don't have to create a big test every week. Just some check, self-test, some very small assessment, but that will help you understand where students are and help students to be more confident that they are learning every week. Okay, so here are some samples of formative assessment, and that's the usually, typically is the best practice is weekly or bi-weekly. If you have a longer term, you should do some sort of assessment at least once every other week. And if you have a shorter term, you should have weekly assessments, okay? And then on the right, that's the midterm and the final kind of exam and test and project, etc. So again, I will be happy to share this resource. Okay, so we covered just a little bit about how to ensure assessment, right? And how to ensure the alignment of your competence of your outcomes with assessment. Now, components. Okay, other components. So your learning activities, your course materials, activities, technologies, everything else. You want to align them. And how do you all put this together? Okay. I'm showing you on the screen, and this was produced by Professor Beth Apodaca from the New Mexico State University. A couple of years ago, she did a presentation at the QM conference, and this is actually posted on their school online to show all the faculty how to use a course mapping, just a table, a course mapping tool, and you can probably not see very well. But if I can show you the next screen really quick, it will be very easy for you to understand. So just a table, you can use Word document, or you start with Excel spreadsheet, however you want to do, with the course level objectives on the very left. And then you probably have anywhere from 4, 6, 8, 10 course level competencies, learning outcomes. And then you go from the course level to module unit level. Make sure the verbs that you're using is measurable. You want them to identify, you want them to organize, you want them to evaluate, you want them to create something, not understanding, 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 okay? Because understanding is not measurable, okay? And then once you identify and you align the course level learning objectives with the module level learning objective, and then you think about, what do I want them to read? And that's probably the easiest part. You are faculty, you are the content expert, you know exactly what the students need to read, but nowadays there's so much online resources. There's open education resources, there's YouTube and everything, right? So you pick the learning materials and give specific information as to what you want them to do. Based on their reading, their digestion of the content, then you want them to do something. So that's where you are engaging them, okay? So the content you're providing, when you're doing this, you are actually facilitating the interaction between the students and the content. And we all do, no matter how we teach. We teach face-to-face. We always ask students to read chapter 2 for what purpose, right? And then when you are designing learning activities, you are facilitating the interaction between, either students to students, or you are really want the students to use what they have learned to do certain things. So you're providing the opportunity to further interact, engage. And then you have the assessment onto the very right. And so everything needs to be aligned, from learning outcomes to assessment. These are from at the two ends, and everything else in between, the content, the learning activities, the tools, that you use, they all support this purpose. And then if you go back, now this is a composition course, but the principle of alignment can apply to any courses, including all of your health science courses. So you start with the course ID, you have the course outcomes or objectives, and then you will start to lay out in modules, unit, lessons, and typically you want to organize those by week. So it will be easy if you need to teach it in the longer term or in the short term, right? So, and learning objectives, learning material, what kind of activity you want them to do, and how they will be assessed, students. So if you present everything like this from the very beginning, okay, from day one, from the first week, and each and every week, you are confident, your students are confident. They know exactly what they are expected to achieve, okay? Okay, so tie this back to the QM standards. When we talk about interaction, because Dr. Khalid was saying earlier how to make my lecture interactive, and there is a way. Yes, if there's a will, there is a way. And the online, teaching and learning is not new. It's maybe still relatively new, and we have been struggling for a year, but we have the best practice from the community, international community. So when we talk about interaction, we're really talking about the interaction between students and the content. Sure, that is the easiest one. And then we're talking about the interaction between the faculty and the students, for feedback, etc., assignment, right? And then depending on the nature of the course, you want to engage students, and you want to provide opportunities for interaction between and among students, if appropriate. Okay, you are the faculty, you know when the students to students interaction is most appropriate and helpful. So back to the QM standards, we do have specific standards under 1, 2, 3 general standards that help you to self-evaluate or guide you to build interaction. Because interaction does not happen. Even if you build a fancy, wonderful, cutting edge, technology course right there, if the faculty is not there to facilitate, if the learning activities are not built purposefully for interaction, engagement is not going to happen by itself. Okay, so your course has been built, and you are teaching it, and you get the students' feedback and your colleagues' feedback, and you improve it, and you gain more and more confidence, and your program, your deans or your institutions wants to offer more online courses, and now they want to benchmark, okay, how we are doing. So that's where the practice, the services like QM, we can come in to help you. Because no matter how many years and how many experience that you have moving forward, you want to match, or you want to do some benchmarking with peer programs, peer institutions, and even outside the kingdom. You want to benchmark against international standards, okay? So this diagram is to show you the course review process. If a program, faculty, institution wants to have their courses, programs, here is the process. The course will be submitted, and then QM staff will organize a peer review team. And all of the peer reviews are professors like you in the community, not QM staff. Okay, QM staff, we manage the process. And before I joined the QM as a full-time staff, I was a peer review, master review. But after I joined, it's kind of a conflict of interest. So rest assured that your course will be reviewed by peers just like you. So if you are in the health science, your courses will be reviewed by professors who also teach the same course, okay? So we give you feedback, and then you can work with your instructional designers to further improve until the course meets standards. And if you meet standards, then you will be QM certified. And I want to show you these are the course level QM certification mark. If your course is QM certified, you can use this mark for your course and on your institutional website. You can use that mark for 5 years. And these are down here are the QM certification mark for programs, and there are 4 parts to that. There's a program design, there's teaching support, learner support, and learner success. There are 4 parts to the program certification. So you may ask, why we're doing all of this? What is the real impact for students, right? Because it takes commitment, it takes resource, it takes funding, and the commitment and your time mostly. So we have, there's lots and lots of research has been done on the impact of QM standards, how the QM standards help improve the quality of online courses, which in turn help students. So here are some of the impact, positive feedback. Improve the students' grades and engagement, certainly. And if any of you need the specific data, I have them for you as well. Increase their students' interaction, retention, lower withdrawal rate, and overall higher rate, both like from the faculty as well as the students, for very simple reasons. If you have a program and you have 10 or 20 courses, they are all designed in one template, so they all look and feel the same way. And then you as a faculty, you provide a content assessment, etc. When a student's logging in for the first time, for the first course, they get comfortable, go into where to do certain things. And then in the other courses, they will feel the same way. They are very much comfortable. They don't have to spend time trying to look for where everything is, what am I supposed to be doing when something is due, and how do I submit, okay? For faculty, yes, you do need to spend time working with your instructional design team to build a course, right? You need to try and run, etc. But once it's built, it gets copied and over. All you need to do is to updating the dates, make certain improvements based on feedback. But save you time. You do not have to answer any questions from students about anything logistic, anything technical, because everything is well laid out. You forward students to where they need to start and just follow, because it's well designed. So you can focus on helping students with the content, with the knowledge. You do not have to serve as a technical support, okay? So I'm not going to go into the program level, but I would welcome an opportunity in the future, perhaps to be invited back. Maybe we can introduce at the program level, how to ensure the quality of program level. So we just talked about course certification. The screen you're seeing is actually part of the list of the currently QM certified courses from King Khalid University. And I am so very proud of them. They have been with QM for 10 years. And if you look at their course title, engineering, statistics, survey, computer science, everything. So everything, every single course can use QM standards to help improve. And as long as you're committed, your course can be QM reviewed and certified. As I mentioned earlier, we provide a lot of professional development. So it depends on your role, whether you teach, whether you are a dean, an administrator, etc. So I'm not going to detail either, but just to give you for academic faculty like you, you really have some QM pathways, for your professional development. You can take on, you can improve your skills, you know, as an online faculty, as an online instructor. And even if maybe in a few months, we all go back to the traditional face-to-face, trust me, you are going to carry on doing what some of the things that you have been doing this past year, because certain things are not going to go back all the way back, because the online skill, the pedagogy, the tools that you learn, the things that you learned how to engage your students, you are going to continue to do them in the future. Even if you go back to face-to-face teaching, you're still going to use your LMS. You're still going to upload the things into your LMS. You're still going to, you know, share all the resources and, you know, post their grades, etc., etc. So if you want to further improve your online skills, you can take the online, improve your online teaching skill theory. And then you can also become a peer review. You can actually also become a QM, a QM certified facilitator for your institution to do some of the QM workshops. So I think I'm just about the time, and here are some of the benefits. I will not go into detail. I hope I have already convinced you a QM can be helpful. So I'm going to stop here and take any questions. And just take down my email, ygao@qualitymeta.org. I'm on email as long as I'm not you know, at night. I will answer question, and I can provide any kind of tools, resources, links, etc. So Q&A. Oh, I have a question from Dr. Barr and a question from Dr. Kali, right?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
Dr. Bahar, you can unmute and ask.
Okay, hope you hear me well.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much for this very nice and informative presentation.
Sure.
I have noticed that the standards of QM are very realistic and specific. And when I compare them as a quality responsible in my university with the quality standards of the Saudi framework at the programmatic level, actually they are concise. There is, you know, quality is a universal concept.
Yes.
So in principle, they are matching. We have here in Saudi Arabia 3 substandards in teaching and learning with 25 criteria, which are summarized maybe in your in the QM rubric for quality. But my question is there a culture difference or variation, for example, in the Middle East or Arabian countries, regarding the assessment and authenticity of the assessment being online? How to ensure that online assessment is authentic, even though we make variable tools and test students by different methods and assignments and so on? Because when we move to the straightforward assessment tools, you know, they are easy for the students to answer, and we cannot ensure the authenticity. When we exhaust the students with assignments and scenarios and portfolios and so on, we can face difficulties and complaints from the students. And even this is not embedded or authorized inside within the program or the curriculum. So do you have, from your experience, any recommendation regarding the culture difference? Thank you.
Well, as we were sharing earlier, this is a very common question, and there might be some cultural uniqueness, I would say. However, assessment is assessment. Right? Health science program courses in Middle East, the learning outcomes and the competencies, etc., should be pretty much the same as if the program is offered in the US or in China or in Latin America. So if you think that you have, quote, unquote, exhausted the ways that you do assessment, think about the as I was saying earlier, you want to use more formative assessments. So you can still do simple way of assessments that you have already been doing, but using it, chunk them up. So they will be smaller assessment, there will be smaller assignment, but doing it on a daily basis. So by the end, in the last 2 weeks, students do not have to scramble. They do not have to say, oh my goodness, you know, my final is coming and half of my final grade is on the final. This is no good. So you want to ensure that every student learns something every day, and they should certainly master a chunk of learning outcomes each week. And I will tell you the story, and I always do. I have a high school kid with son, and he's going to college soon. And the past few years, he's in college because their schools do assessment, assignment every day, every other day, every week. So he has not been required to do final exam for many years, because it's an ongoing evaluation. And that makes everybody happy, because the fact that the teachers are very confident. Max has been doing very well from the first day. He does not need the final exam. He gets 98 on everything. He's good. And then my son, the students, do not have to stress for final exam. And if my son is not stressed, then I'm happy, right? So it's make everybody happy. So learning activities, smaller assignment, all the way from the beginning, and tell students that if you're doing this well, midterm or even final will be optional.
Yeah.
Try that. Yes, they will be happy. They would rather, you know, be in the known than be kept in the dark and wait until the very end. Then, you know, they panic. If they panic, they want to cheat, right? So ask the other way around. How do I ensure my students are learning something every day, every week?
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. So we have Prof. Khalid. Yes, please, you can unmute and say.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Yaping.
Sure.
It's really very interesting and informative talk.
Thank you.
I have 3 points. I would like to just go through it very quickly. First of all, the role of students in quality assurance. Some faculty, they thought the students only engaged in the teaching and learning, I mean, feedback after the exam or the formative assessment. But what I look at the role of students is it's far beyond just the teaching and learning. I treat the students as partners, not as a customer or a client. They are partners with us. So they should be engaged even in the vision and mission of the college.
Yes.
And they should be heavily represented in the committees, especially the quality assurance committees. Why? Because students, they go around the whole components of the program, and they also exposed to the courses and even the segments of the courses. So they are really our eyes and ears in the college. So this is the first point. The second one, what I really matter in quality is the culture of quality. I don't want our institutions, especially the leaders, the head of departments, vice deans, they just think about how to get the certificate or the accreditation. I think what matters is how can we build a culture of quality where everybody can put the what we call it the excellence, not even the minimum standards, but beyond the minimum, to the excellence in medical education as a practice, as a habit in our day-to-day life. The third point, the process of QM certification. I want you to elaborate more. Nowadays, what is your process? How do you offer certification? Is there any face-to-face visit, or it's all online evaluation? Thank you.
Okay, so can I just respond to Professor Khalid, the third question, because that's a bit easier, right? Yes, so QM certification at the course level as well as program level are for online courses and for online programs. And if you happen to offer your course or programs in a hybrid fashion, we only evaluate and review the online components of it. So for example, a course can be built as an online course, but you can make a copies of, teach it as a hybrid course, right? So, but we review and certify the design of the course, not evaluating the faculty, how they teach it. Although we have workshops and guidelines to guide how you should effectively teach a well-designed course, right? But a well-designed course is a foundation, and I always use this car thing. You have a fancy car, right? And I'm not talking about the car that's in the future can just, the car just drive itself. I will never get into that. So you have a fancy car built, very quality, but you still have to have a licensed driver, right? The driver has to be trained to get the license, and the students, you can think about them as the passenger in that vehicle, in that car. They have a nice car, very comfortable environment, and then the faculty is the skillful driver, a guide to take the students from point A, where they are, to point B, where their destination, where their learning competencies is. And the whole thing needs to have a very good experience. Okay, you can ride in any car, but if the car is built of quality, has all the accommodations, and it's comfortable, and then the whole experience, the students' learning experience. And then the other thing I want to concur with Dr. Khalid is, in this new digital environment, our students should be our quote unquote partners. I totally concur. And you think about it, gone are the days when the faculty owns the knowledge. That is the person, that's it. And the students have to take notes for every word the professor say. We are not in that days and age anymore. Information is available, right? And lifelong learning, think about ourselves this past year, how humble that we have become, but also how inspired we have been. We in the past don't even talk to me about online education. I do not want that. That's not my way. But you succeeded. You rise up to the challenge and you survived. And now you realize, certain things about the online pedagogy is actually working for me. Is actually helping my students. So one of your new role as the faculty is not just for one way of, transmission knowledge from me to my students. Yes, you still have that role. The other role is you engage your students and you nurture them to become a lifelong learner. And you have set up such a wonderful example this past year. You let your students know, I am learning this together. We're struggling together, but we're learning together. We'll make it. Okay, so partner in every sense. And also, if you have projects, team-based or case study or anything, send your students out to do research, online research, pull back information. They can help you to create new knowledge, new skills that will benefit all others in the future. So, yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So next question from Dr. Al-Mardi. Yes, please.
Thank you, Shazia, and thank you very much, Yaping.
Sure.
I told you, every time I attend the talk, I learn a few things. Thank you very much. I actually expected you to shed some light on your relationship with institutions other than universities you have in Saudi Arabia. I think you have some sort of a relationship with the National E-Learning Center or the NCAA, one of the two, because we as a society would like to know we are not an academic institution, but we are planning to deliver some training courses. So what sort of relationship we can have with Quality Matters as a society?
Oh, so you can certainly join QM as a continuing and the professional education member, sure. And we would welcome and every member of yours at their own individual institutions or colleges, to join QM as an academic member, sure. So, but I'm so proud, and I want to share with you a link here. Because QM has been, let me grab my mouse here, being in this kingdom for so long. Okay, so I'm sharing a link here. You can take a quick look. Last year, after years of a conversation, I think the conversation started in 2017 when Dr. Deb Adel and I went to Saudi for a visit for 10 days. We went to Riyadh. We visited Princess Nora University, so impressed. And the conversation with the National E-Learning Center in Saudi has been going on for almost 4 years. So last year, when this whole pandemic happened, the conversation gets very serious. So the national standards that you all have access to under the National E-Learning Center are part of the collaboration between an OLC, that's another US organization, and Quality Matters. So QM is officially strategic partner with the National E-Learning Center. And our goal is to continue to support a bigger, larger education community, and not just for higher education, for organizations, for K-12, for continuing and professional education. So I am so hopeful that, and so inspired. I have had so many conversations this past year with institutions, not just in Saudi, but in the Mideast region, because we also have member in Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, etc., etc. So yes, the partnerships that between QM and your entity, your organization here would be fantastic. Dr. Ahmadi, perhaps you and I and your core team, we can have a follow-up Zoom conversation. We can actually either have a consortium for you. It's a QM consortium. The consortium is you all join as individual member, but we have a consortium. Under the consortium structure, you will gain more benefit, but the cost for membership is much lower. So we can certainly talk about that. Okay.
Thank you very much. That's a great idea.
Sure.
Yes, Dr. Hatem Said Ahmad.
Yes, Assalamu alaikum jami'an. Thank you so much, Dr. Yabin, for this very interesting webinar.
Thank you.
My name is Hatem Mustafa. I'm basically consultant preventive medicine, public health. I'm not working in academic institution. I'm working in the Ministry of Health in a strategic management office in Ihsa cluster. So my question related, first of all, I would like to thank Professor Mardi for invitation. And thanks to Mardi again, because 13 years back, I remember in Sudan, we started the online teaching, not for the medical student, but for the healthcare professional. And actually, the shortage of resources created the demand for that. We have a vast country, people cannot come to the center, so we use the video conference and some of the webinar or some of the program at that time. So my question now, the teaching of healthcare professionals in the field is highly needed. So how can I ensure the quality of learning? Today we need training course of improvement of performance, in quality, in infection control. And you know, all healthcare providers, highly complex adaptive systems, they cannot wait for the assessment, whether it's summative or formative. It's just they need quick information in an agile environment and to improve the performance. So what is the standard for that? This is the first question. The second question, how can we ensure the ethics when we are teaching online, whether for the student? Because I personally has been engaged in some teaching online and assessment. And when I look for the answer of the student in some of the tests, it's just copy paste. So how to ensure the student answering with professionalism just to achieve, because in online you cannot guarantee whether the student is attended or not, whether it's interactive or not, and this is definitely another challenge. Thank you so much.
Sure. Okay, two big questions that I can spend 2 hours. So just quickly, the first one is QM standards. I shared earlier, we have 5 sets of them. So the one that I shared mainly focuses on higher education. We have another one for continuing and professional education. Okay, so you can take a look at that. Also, just because you have this does not mean that you have to use them all. QM is adaptable. So if you take a look at those 40 standards and you think, that's probably too much. Let's get the faculty, let folks, take a look, and you take some baby steps. Level 1, level 2, level 3, however you want to do it. We have so many experience. There's a saying at the QM staff, we have over 1,500 member institutions, and each of them have their own way of implementing QM, and each of them equally good because they serve their purpose, right? Because each institution, each organization is different. So if you want to have a further conversation, I'll be happy to, just schedule another meeting talking to you about that, how QM can help you to achieve your goal, okay? Professor Hinton. The other question is, again, you use a very nice word, ethics, and it is, in the common sense, it is students kind of, they're trying to take the easy way out and copy and paste the same answer to everything, or in certain times. So it goes back to the conversation we just had about assessment and engagement. And there's a very many different creative ways to do that in the online environment. First of all, many research studies have shown that if you teach an online courses, you actually, if you build your learning activities, in such a way, you actually get to know your students better, even if you do not see them face to face like this every day. Because if you do, for example, the first assignment that you give from day 1 is they do a self-introduction. You want them to post it, self-introduce themselves. You get to see their writing style, who they are, what they're like, what they're interested. The more you know your students, the more your students know, the less they're going to cheat, the less they're going to copy and paste everything. Also, we actually have some faculty who kind of, from the very beginning of the course, they ask their students to sign a contract, quote, quote, contract. Contract meaning the professor tell them, okay, I'm your professor, I'm going to teach you this course, and this is what you can expect from me. I'm going to do my best, and these are my commitment to you. I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay? Now, you are my students. Okay, it is your responsibility, and I'm here to help for you to achieve these learning outcomes. So you are expected in turn to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And one of them is you want them to promise they're not going to cheat. They're not going to use copy and paste online stuff. If you make that commitment, and if students see you take the personal responsibilities to ensure they learn, they will be much, much less likely to want to cheat. Okay, so that's just a starting point for you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Sure.
you very much. Yes, Dr. Shahid. Dr. Shahid. Well, we have one question in chat box by Dr. Ajilan.
Yes.
All
Can
right.
I?
Yes, please, you can ask.
Thank you very much. It was very interesting talk.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for the presenter and the organizers. Thank you very much for that.
Welcome.
Having said that, you know, one of the important variable here is the quality of students that you have. Now, different schools have different students. Some students are school leavers. They join medical schools soon after their high school, like grade 12. Other schools, like in North American medical colleges, they admit students who are graduate students. So you see, in the online thing, most of the things that we entrust that they would be doing, the way that it has been taken by young students who are school leavers and students who are graduate students. So how do you ensure the quality in these two different groups of students? Thank you very much, and I really appreciate your presentation.
Thank you. Well, that's another big question, and some parts of it is probably beyond the scope of our conversation here because we focus on course design, right? However, we actually recently are working with the US-based regional accreditors, and we help them to update their 21st century guidelines for online education. So we were very proud to be part of that. And one of the pieces that's very important to institutions as well as programs is to ensure that students are ready to learn when they start a program or when they start a course. So again, there are pieces of this, and one of the things that you as a faculty, you can ensure is you provide the support, you provide the resource that you feel will be helpful to students, no matter what level they are in. But beyond you as a professor, you probably need to talk to the dean, talk to your program, and talk to whoever is responsible to admit those students to your courses or your programs. Now, the other way around, you said there are some younger students and there's some, adult professional students. How do you, merge them together and make sure everybody has a wonderful learning experience? There are different ways to do this. And this is the, again, the best practice of how to engage students. As we were talking about earlier, our goal as faculty is not only just a knowledge vessel. Okay, we are not just the sole source of knowledge, but we are here to ensure our students all become effective, contributing, lifelong learners. So if you're talking about the nature of students, younger students, more mature adult students, for certain activities, you can pair them together. So the more experienced, the adult and the professional students probably can share their experience. And then the younger students can probably have more creative ideas because they are like, their mind is like open. So they do not have any burdens or baggage or past bad experience to influence their thinking. So, and also the younger students are more open to try new things, new technologies. So it takes some time for faculty or instructional designers to really get a handle to it. But if you really are committed, there's a ways of mingle and merging those two or more kind of student population into one, so everybody is helping each other, and to really create a kind of learning community, so we all help each other, because that is the real world. You think about it. Your students graduate from your program. They're top A students. They're hired by a company right away. They're hired by a hospital. The environment they're going to, the team that they're going to work is of very diversity professionals, right? So you are actually in your class, you're teaching them the reality. You prepare them for their future career and the profession. Okay.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Sure.
There is
Thank
one.
you.
Sorry, I really apologize that we are running short of time, but still there are a lot of questions people want to ask. So Dr. Ajalan, he asked that postgrad education is continuity of undergrad, but the way of teaching is changed. How can we enhance teaching in postgraduate?
Oh, well, compared to teaching undergraduate online courses to postgraduate courses, I guarantee you, you will be so much happier teaching postgraduate students, actually. They are mature. They know why they are here, why they want to continue their study, research, and they also really appreciate the opportunity of online education because they can take care of their family. And at this late hour, they can log into their online course, they can do homework, they can share in their experience. And back again to the lifelong learner, those postgraduate students, they compared to the undergraduate students, they have more experience. So if you design your learning activities, homework in such a way that you value their input, you value their experience, you will be amazed how much that the postgraduate can teach all of us a lot of things. So good luck, and I'm sure you will enjoy it.
Yeah, thank you very much. There is one question by Dr. Faisal. So if you can please unmute and ask. He asked that how to assure medium to long-term retention in this case. So can we know the context of the question, please?
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Shadia, for giving me the opportunity to ask this question directly. And thank you very much for a wonderful presentation, Dr. Kirti.
Thank you.
My question is basically when you talk about that we should focus on the daily assessment to weekly assessment instead of the end of term assessment. In that case, we will end up assessing the short-term retention only. What about the medium-term retention and the long-term retention? How do you are going to assess that?
Yes. So we shared earlier on that lower level skill, lower cognitive skill, and the high level cognitive skills. And yes, you're right. If it's on the daily basis and weekly basis, we are perhaps, for the most part, are only assessing their short-term memory. If in your course, a lot of concept definitions are important. But it depends on how you want to design your assessment. If you design your project, a capstone thing, or a teamwork, or a case study, or some hands-on practice, you are not assessing their short-term or low cognitive skills anymore. If you want them to evaluate on certain things, if you want them to apply their knowledge to create something, they are going to remember. And that is long-term memory and a long-term application. So think in that continuum. Okay. And your instead of final exam covering everything that you already have been done in the daily, weekly practice test, you think about the last project is a capstone project, is a teamwork project. So everybody contributing. And I guarantee you, students remember teamworks. You know, these are the things that they actually digested their knowledge, their skills, and they can apply what they have learned. They remember that. Okay.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Any other question?
I see Dr. Khalid still has his hands on.
Dr. Khalid, want to say something or?
Well, I think I forgot to lower my hand, but it's a good opportunity to just further to the Professor Al-Mardi comments about the collaboration between QM and the society, the SISMI. I think it, for the sake of time, probably I would like to ask Dr. Shazia and Prof. Abdul-Mardi to arrange further maybe meetings through Zoom or whatever tool, so that we can talk about how can we make this in action. We are really indeed to have a collaboration with the QM. Thank you.
Oh, that's wonderful. That is wonderful. I am going to copy and paste another link here. Now, since you are really showing interest to join the QM as a community, here's the link very quickly, and I'm pasting for everybody. QM, because we serve the education community internationally, globally. So we have all types of institutions and organizations like you. So that's why we offer different types of membership, you know, so that the way we structure it will be of the biggest benefit for you. So if you take a look here, and I am not sure if you want me to show screen, but I can. There is a consortium option. Consortium would fit ideally, you know, at least at this moment, the way I'm thinking, consortium would perhaps fit your society the best. So the Saudi Society of Medical Education as an entity organization can be the lead. Okay, can be the lead in the sense that you want to have your member institutions, colleges join QM as well. And so you can provide as an organization, you know, benefit and training and things like that to all the members. But the individual member institution under your consortium can also further engage with QM. And the benefit of that is that if you form a consortium, because our goal is to expand our QM member community as big as possible. So we want you to join. So that's why we give a big discount on the membership if you form a consortium.
Excellent.
You will see in the first row on the right side, there's also another option. It's called system. So we use these two terms, and it can be confusing. But what you can remember is that as a consortium, at the back end of QM, you know, we have our data, professional development, and course review data, etc. As a consortium, each of those members in the consortium, they are independent of each other, meaning we manage our own QM activities, you know, reviews and things like that. And other members in the consortium cannot see what we're doing. Okay, so they are relatively independent, although you form a consortium. So the benefit of consortium is just a cost effectiveness. The system, and by the way, and of the 1,300 member institutions in the US based, half of our members are under various systems and mostly by states. So for example, in state where I am, the state of Florida has a system, QM system. There are 35 different institutions and colleges, universities are under the Florida system. All the benefits are same, except that if you form a system, you have a lead level, and the lead level person actually can monitor, can manage, can facilitate all the activities for all the member institutions. So there's a transparency, there's a collaboration thing going on in the system. And the consortium is just a group of individual institutions, organizations band together to form a consortium. So these are the two different ways that I can see.
Great. We will talk about the details
Yes.
later on. Thank you.
Yes, 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 definitely.
So probably almost all questions has been answered, and I would like to say thank you very much. Thank you for this wonderful presentation. And probably by now everyone will be excited that how we can get QM certification, especially for their courses and at certain point for at program level as well.
Yeah.
So thank you very much, Yaping, for your
Sure.
time and your efforts. And thank you for sharing these useful links. Probably they will give us information. And I would say now thank you to all participants and all members. And I hope that we will develop a collaboration with Sesame Riyadh in future. And it will be good for us to get membership package.
Yes. Yes, that'd be really good. Yeah. Thank you again, everybody, for taking your late evening time. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to catch up again soon and via email or via future meetings via Zoom. So thank you again.
Thank you very much. So I will
Okay.
say bye-bye,
Okay.
and I will share
Bye-bye.
recording with all. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.